Introduction to Web Development Technologies. So, firstly, how the internet works. What is a network? A network is simply a spider web of devices. Is the multiple devices all connected to different networks, or all connected through cables or wireless internet, and are able to share information and resources with each other through this process. Then what's a server? A server is a computer that provides resources to other computers called clients. So when you log into a website, a server receives a request and it gives you the HTML file, and that's what you see as a website. And when you're like downloading songs, it's the server that gives you the song that you're downloading. It's where information and data is being kept so that when you request for it, it's being sent back to the client or the user, which is you. Web page, website, I don't know what it is. A web page is simply a building block of HTML files. It's what is displayed, it's HTML documents displayed on the websites. When a browser interprets these documents, that's what you get as a web page or website. A website is a compilation of these web pages put together. A web browser. A web browser is simply a software that interprets code and gives it to you as websites, mainly HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which are commonly used. It helps you access the internet, and also it's what makes requests to the web server, how you receive files and displayed on it. Then web hosting. Web hosting is like renting space on the internet for your website. It's where you keep your files and information. It's like web server for your own website itself. There are different types of web hosting, which are shared hosting, VPS hosting, cloud hosting, and dedicated hosting. Shared hosting is renting space on another person's web server with multiple other people. It's cost effective and commonly used. Cloud hosting is renting space on the internet. It's not really cost effective, but it's quite expensive also. VPS hosting is when a web server is being split into multiple virtual servers where people buy each, or we can call them containers because it's being split, and you host your server on each of them. Sorry, on the one you buy. And dedicated hosting is just hosting your own server on your own web server. IP addresses. When you connect your device to a network or to the internet, you get your own specific IP address for your device, and with that, you're able to, the web server is able to communicate with your device, and your device is able to communicate with other devices. There are two types of IP addresses: the IP version 4 and the IP version 6. The IP version 4 is the older version, the traditional version, and then they came up with IP version 6 to accommodate the growing number of devices, which are still growing actually. TCP and UDP. There are different ones. There are also types of protocol. TCP, Transmission Control Protocol. When data is being transmitted, IP address, they transfer data in these things called IP packets. And when these are being transferred, they can either get lost, corrupted, or you receive the data out of order. And to avoid this, we use TCP or UDP. TCP helps you get the data in order. It doesn't get lost and it doesn't get damaged during this transfer. But the only downside is that it's slow. There's a cost of delay. But UDP, the IP packets can get damaged. They can get lost. They might even come out of order, but they're really fast. That's the only advantage. Well, also the fact that it's not connection oriented. HTTP and HTTPS, Hypertext Transfer Protocol. HTTP is the intermediary between web servers and web browsers. So when you go on a website and a request is being sent to the web browser, it's through the HTTP request method. there are multiple request methods: get, post, put, and all the rest. And then there's HTTPS, which is a secure version of HTTP. It encrypts the data that is being sent and being received from the web servers for your privacy and safety. HTTP method. We have the get method, which is used to retrieve data, the head method, which is used to retrieve headers, post method, submit data. All these help you to receive and send information to and through the web browser. It helps with communicating with the web server, so you can receive information on time or however you like it. HTTP request header is it's more of the format in which the request is being sent to the web server, so it knows the format, the document you want to receive, or the language you want it, or also to know where it's supposed to go to. And then the HTTP response. When the web server receives the HTTP request, it sends back a HTTP response, which is in the HTTP request header, everything that you want and the way you want it is being listed out. So it gives it back in that way that you want it. Like when you log into a website, it can give you the HTML, CSS, and JavaScript for that website. So dependencies, package managers, and bundling. What are dependencies? Dependencies are the libraries and frameworks that your website needs to be able to function properly. While package managers this is when your dependencies are being gathered in one place. They gather and manage your dependencies for you. They help to install, configure, and manage dependencies to make it easier for you. And then bundling. Bundling is when it gathers all the files that your project needs, your website needs. The dependencies, the HTML files, the CSS, and the JavaScript, and it puts them and joins them into one file to make your performance better and to make the website faster. Next, we'll talk about CSS. What's CSS? CSS is the style sheet. CSS helps with styling the website. It tells the browser how the HTML elements should be arranged, how they are colored, and how they should look like on the website. It also helps configure the layout of the website. It gives it new styles, sometimes even gives it new positions, but not sometimes, it also gives it new positions. It changes the colors, changes the fonts, spacing, and arrangements of HTML documents, of HTML elements. Next, frameworks and libraries. What are frameworks? Frameworks, we can call frameworks blueprints. They are structures that are given to you, they provide structures for HTML web. Frameworks, they provide structures for websites. So if you want to create a website now and you're using a framework, you have to follow it. It's like a blueprint, it's like a building blueprint. You follow everything word by word so that you can be able to create the website that is given to you. And then libraries. Libraries are reusable pieces of code. It's like giving you tools, but you can decide when to use them, how to use them. Libraries and frameworks, they just make coding easier and better for everyone, for coders. Then APIs. What are APIs? APIs are sets of rules or functions for accessing features or data of systems. APIs are used for communication. Now, let's say you go on a website and you're requesting for something on the website, but the web server doesn't have it. The web server can go to another web server. It's using the form of an API request. API are used sometimes or most times. They are used for communication between two different web servers, or they can be simple. Used for communication between web servers. Next, static versus dynamic web. Static websites. These are websites that are cold. So they are served by a web server. All the information they need is being given to them by web servers. While dynamic websites, they update based on user interaction, same as single page applications. They update based on user interaction. The resources are given to them by application servers. Next we'll look at the different what are web servers? I forgot that part. What are web servers? What are application servers? The difference between web servers and application servers. Application servers, they provide resources for dynamic content. When applications are directly connected to the database, so when a dynamic content is being loaded and it needs information from the application server, first it goes to the web server, and the web server then connects to the application server to receive that resource that the dynamic website needs. But during this process, everything is quite slow. So if the web server if it doesn't have the content that the dynamic website needs, it collects the content from the application server and downloads it, takes a copy into its own site, and gives to the dynamic website that is asking for it. So that if the dynamic website is asking for it again, rather than going through the process of going to the application server, it collects that copy that it already has and gives it to the dynamic website to make everything faster. This process is called caching. Then single page applications. These are applications that update based on user interaction. They're not just a web page. It's how do I explain this now? Let's say you have a website with home, about, contact. Rather than these all being different HTML files, that one HTML file, for every time the user goes to a different section, the HTML updates itself using an application server. That's what they use. The next, responsive design. How do I explain responsive design? When you go on the website now, the way it looks on your phone, on your tablet, and on your laptop, they're all different, and that's true responsive design. It helps give different sizes or different renderings for different devices, for a variety of devices and sizes. And that's where we come from Bootstrap. Bootstrap is a JavaScript, CSS and JavaScript framework that helps for developing responsive and interactive websites to add more functionality to the website. And that's what we see infixes. Infixes are used with breakpoints. They are they are used to determine what size the CSS rule is going to apply to. And then modifiers. Modifiers are classes. They are classes that they modify, change, and alter the appearance of certain HTML elements, mainly classes and IDs. Then the Bootstrap grid system. This includes the containers, rows, and columns. The container is a fundamental body of the container is a fundamental body of the front end, while the rows is a wrapper around the column, and the column is free and flexible. It's free and flexible in sizes. Breakpoints are what triggers the Bootstrap. Breakpoints are the triggers. Breakpoints are triggers that Bootstrap uses to know when to change the layout of a device. To fit the screen size or the viewpoint size. Then Bootstrap components. These are reusable pieces of code that make websites more interactive, functional, and they also help with changing the layouts. They also help with the responsive design. They include forms, alerts, cards, and models. Next. Sorry. So what is HTML? HTML is the structure of your website. It helps define what a website is. It's what the website is. It includes elements, classes, tabs, forms, and the documents. The HTML document. The HTML document is the basic structure for web pages, obviously written using HTML. When a website runs a HTML document, when a web browser runs a HTML document, that's where you get websites. Just those. Then basic HTML tabs. Forms in HTML. Forms allow user input. They help build functionality and interactivity in websites. When a form is being sent, it has the action attribute and the HTTP method if it's been saved. Document object model. This is a tree-like structure that represents all the objects in the HTML. So rather than a web browser having to read HTML code line by line, it's being put in a DOM, and it can read everything at once and makes websites run faster. And lastly, web accessibility. This is when web accessibility. This ensures that the website can be accessible by anyone, despite disabilities and deformities. Some things websites have to ensure that subtitles, text to speech, and screen readers. Thank you.
Não posso questions. Ou as questions?
All right.
Okay, now next topic we'll talk about introduction. Okay, we'll talk about introduction to JavaScript programming. What is JavaScript? JavaScript is a language that the browser understands. It's used to make interactive, dynamic, and functional websites. Why JavaScript? In other words, why is JavaScript so popular? JavaScript is the only language the web understands so far.
Really?
Yeah, apparently.
Okay, so
Silence. If you were to remove JavaScript from all the websites in the world, pretty much most of them would crumble. JavaScript is a central pillar. It's also easy to use and understand, and it's used everywhere, so you have a lot of tips in case you end up in trouble with your codes or something. And then another reason why JavaScript is popular, it's used for powering IoT, Internet of Things. It's also used for powering websites and variables and data types. Variables allow us to assign values to values. Variables, they are used to declare. The keyword var is used to declare a variable. So let's say we have the word days now. Let's say days. You want to declare a variable to the word days. You have to declare a value to the variable days. You can use Sunday, Monday, Tuesday using the keyword var. Var days equals to Sunday. Days there is the variable. Sunday is the value, which is the string. Then data types. Data types are the classifications. They specify the type of data that is being, declared or that is being used at the moment. This consists of booleans, strings, big ints, like big int, boolean string, big int, and numbers, objects. Next. Control structures. Control structures include loops and conditional statements. Conditional statements are like are used when you're giving a specific function, and once this function is met, these codes are expected to run. So you give a function and you expect that function to be met before the code is run. Conditional statements involve the if statements, the if else statements, the elif statements, or the switch statements. Then we have loops. Loops is used when you use loops to repeat a certain block of code. It's used for iteration. And loops consist of for loop and the while loop. Functions in JavaScript. What are functions? Functions are reusable blocks of code designed to perform a specific task. So functions are also used to label blocks of code to make typing codes more organized, manageable, and also faster. Because when they're put together, the browser reads everything line by line. Next, we'll be looking at arrays. What are arrays? Arrays are a special type of variable. They allow you to store multiple values in a single variable. So like, with the example I used before, the variable days equals to something. With an array, you can create a variable days, and you can use Sunday, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. That's what array lets you do. It makes you store multiple values inside one variable. Some array methods involve push, pop, and mark, and all these help you enhance and improve your web development skills. And lastly, object-oriented programming, also known as OOP. Because OOP, what's object-oriented programming? This is when object-oriented programming involves objects and classes. It has key concepts like escapulation, which is this is when escapulation. This is hiding implementing data rather than showing on. This is hiding implementing data and only showing the necessary data. So as I said before, OOP, object-oriented programming, involves classes and objects. But in terms of JavaScript involves, in object-oriented programming, it involves functions and prototypes, which has the same meaning or the same use as normal object-oriented programming. Which is what exactly? Which is to make codes scalable, shorter, and easier to use. Thank you.